to bring in Aditi after a quick word from FanDuel, wherever she comes from. The NBA playoffs are here, guys, and you could get in on the action because FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to make money early on. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Don't miss out. Head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. And with that, we are thrilled to welcome in Aditi Kinkhabwala from an undisclosed hotel room somewhere in Northeast America. What's up, Aditi?
Why would I be in Berea? Travis Hunter is here in Green Bay.
That's true. I have no idea why you'd be in Berea, but that's the propaganda that Mike was spreading. By the way,
how many times you say propaganda today?
I'm a big propaganda guy.
That's at least 4.
I'm overusing propaganda, apparently, Aditi. I've now said it 5 times, including that. By the way, is there a medical team? Like, there cannot be a vegetarian restaurant in Green Bay, Wisconsin. How are you going to eat your entire time in Green Bay?
I've been fine. I had a great Italian meal last night. Lots of spaghetti, a lot of bread and olive oil, salad. It was the only meal I ate all day because of the live shots and such. I've been eating a lot of granola bars.
Good.
I pack nuts. Yeah. But I appreciate your caring.
I did.
You know what was really cool, though? How about this? Not that I'm saying that I had this. That was a little funny of a reach. So, as you know, when the draft was in Cleveland, it's a great opportunity for NFL cities to show off their city beyond just the stadium, which is what fans see every single week. Yeah. So, Green Bay did this tremendous thing where 9 local breweries got together, made so here are the 9 breweries.
Yeah.
They made a very special original recipe beer, this IPA. You could only buy it last night at the Music Fun Festival.
Yeah.
Starting on the 26th, you could buy it at these breweries. They made apparently only 50 or 60 barrels, and that's it. Like, what a great idea. It's the official beer of the Draft City Music Fest.
That is very cool.
Why did Cleveland do that?
I don't know.
And it wasn't bad. Like, you'd think, does it taste like something like 9 different beers mixed together? I'm not an IPA person, but I will tell you it wasn't bad.
Apparently, Aditi's getting hammered in Green Bay. All right. Speaking of very... I'm kidding. Speaking of very special...
Just what I need my children to hear.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. I'm joking. Aditi's family, I'm joking. You mentioned Travis Hunter. Obviously, we're all convinced now that the Browns are going to take him at 2. Is there any chance that does not happen today?
Of course. I think there's a chance of anything. I mean, this draft from 4 through 20, you've basically got a bunch of players that are pretty much equivalent. I think that Daniel Jeremiah is the person who actually said this, my former colleague at the NFL Network, that this is a draft of starters, not stars. There's one bona fide superstar in this draft, and that's Travis Hunter. So up until now, nobody has packaged anything to convince Andrew Berry and the Browns brass to move down when they've got essentially a surefire thing in either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, as they may view it. But someone could get desperate and do so, and then you never know what's going to happen. And that's in fact what Hunter said to me yesterday. He said, I'm not banking on anything. You never know what's going to happen. But I was on the air maybe 6 weeks ago saying that I loved the idea of Abdul Carter, that I loved the idea of pairing Abdul Carter with Myles Garrett, that you could terrorize quarterbacks for the future, that in the AFC, you absolutely have to be able to make quarterbacks uncomfortable. But as time has passed, I've really come to sort of believe and hope, I guess, that the pick is Travis Hunter. I really like this young man. I was just talking to a general manager this morning who was saying to me that this is truly an old soul, an old school football player. He is obsessed with the game. He doesn't do much beyond football and fishing. He said watching an occasional YouTube. He has great discipline. He's graduating with what he said was he believes is a 3.9 GPA. He knows how to study. He knows how to be an intellectual. Kevin Stefanski talked about this yesterday, that this is a unique man who could indeed learn both sides of the ball. And I think that the Browns desperately need a playmaker. And if you're riding with Kenny Pickett this season as your quarterback, hoping that he has a Sam Darnold type renaissance, a Baker Mayfield, a Geno Smith, get to a new place and be better, be different, then okay, great. But if not, you've still got someone who can add a level of dynamism to your offense, perhaps give something to your defense as well, and who will be a great culture driver in your locker room. I promise you that. So again, sort of as someone who is around the team a lot and wanting the team to do well and have a certain energy, I like the possibility of this being the pick.
I'm glad that you said that, Aditi, because Jason thinks that the Browns should tank the season for a quarterback next year. But speaking of quarterback,
What does that have to do with taking Travis Hunter?
you can talk about it later. Anyways, speaking of quarterback.
You know what? But this is, I'm just going to
man.
interrupt for a minute. Wait.
Yeah.
Let me interrupt for a minute. Fans and the media will talk about tanking, but there is no player that loves the game of football or cares about his work product that's ever buying into that. I was in New England last year when it was Joe Milton starting for the Patriots, and everybody's saying, oh, the Patriots should lose to the Bills and get the #1 overall pick, and who knows what Bob Kraft wanted. It didn't matter. The coaching staff knew that it was out the door, but Joe Milton was auditioning for a job. Joe Milton was playing for his future. You think he's laying down to tank? It's just like it.
No, but they would have
Jason,
been better
I love
off.
you, but it's such an irrelevant storyline.
But
like,
you're
players
right.
don't do that.
But the Patriots still would have been
Players
better off.
don't, but teams think that way. Absolutely. They have to.
Yeah, and if players aren't on board, or if Lovie Smith isn't on board and wants to give a parting shot on the way out the door, yeah, I don't. Players and coaches, that's not the way they're wired.
Aditi, you got a chance to talk to Cam Ward. What is it about him that stood out to you that makes him special? And, you know, do you think he can turn the Tennessee Titans around?
I was talking to my buddy Ramon Foster, who's on the radio in Tennessee and does the Titans radio this morning, and we had this long conversation, and he was essentially asking the same question. I really, really like this young man's demeanor, and I like that he hasn't always been a superstar. When he was in high school, he barely passed the ball even 10 times a game. So he tells me yesterday that from that experience he brings to the NFL, it doesn't matter how you win, just that you win. You do whatever it takes to win. Then he goes to football championship subdivision, the University of the Incarnate Word. There he learns how to throw the ball. He's a gunslinger. He takes off. But again, he doesn't necessarily have great talent around him. He learns how to elevate the people that he does have around him. And then he goes to Washington State. He said that's where he really learned that you invest in your teammates, that you learn about people. He said that's something that I know is really important now. And then, of course, at Miami, he finally had that stage. He had better talent around him. But still, every single offensive coach or scout that I've spoken to has said there's still so much untapped potential. In Brian Callahan, you have a great quarterback coach, a guy that's worked with everyone from Peyton Manning to Joe Burrow. These two men have similar demeanors. The way that they look at the game in an academic, intellectual way, I think will really pair well together. I'm excited. I think that Cam Ward, as a young man, as a human being, has the discipline to really want to improve and try to improve. And let's see what the Titans can do with him. You hope that they can support him. I think that's the most important thing with a young quarterback, that you need to have something around him and not put everything on his shoulders.
How confident are you that the Browns take a quarterback with their second pick, regardless of where that pick winds up being?
Yeah, I don't know that it's the second pick. They'll take one in this draft, as they should. I think it remains to be seen. They certainly have the capital to trade back into the first round. Do they do that? They pick first on the second day. If they don't, do they do that? There are quite a few quarterbacks that have varied suitors. And what I mean by that are... I've heard from a lot of people. I've heard from people who really like Jalen Milroe. I just talked to a GM this morning who said that he thinks he's got the highest ceiling in this quarterback class. There are people that think there are interesting traits about Will Howard. I don't know. I can't speak to where the Browns are ranking the quarterbacks. It would be cool if Andrew Berry would clue me in on that. Of course, if he did, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you, but he hasn't, so I don't know. I don't know. I said this earlier, though. If I'm the Browns, take a shot. Go take a shot on Jalen Milroe. I mean, I just think that this kid is an elite athlete. Not this kid, I'm sorry. This young man is an elite athlete. He's obviously one of the most dynamic athletes in the draft. He does have a really strong arm. Again, we heard about the high ceiling. Let's see what you can do. Tommy Reese knows him. Tommy Reese knows him well. So he's a boomer bust prospect, but you got to take a chance. At some point, you have to take chances.
I am on Team Milroe. I'm with you. Go ahead.
Y'all aware that Tommy Reese benched him?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we all knew that.
That doesn't mean.
But that
I just wanted to just throw that out there to make sure we all knew.
But again, you know what? Joe Burrow was benched for Dwayne Haskins, and look at what he's turned into.
Whoa!
Is that not true?
Don't do that.
Aditi just got you.
Let me ask you: is that not accurate? Is that not an accurate?
Urban Meyer should have been fired for that.
No, because if you really want to be fair,
Yeah.
Dwayne Haskins had a better season than Joe Burrow's first season at LSU.
Okay, so the whole point here
not the wrong
is that
decision.
people develop at different rates. People get different coaching. It's why Sam Darnold was labeled a bust and then had a monster year. It's why I refuse to give up on Kenny Pickett, because I know how unbelievably dysfunctional the world in Pittsburgh was around him in that building. So I think that even though Jalen Milroe may not have been ready at that point when Tommy Reese benched him, he may be a different prospect right now. From what I've been told, now I was not around him in the same way, but from what I've been told about people who have evaluated him, who get paid way more than I do to evaluate him, he is a very hard worker and he is very driven. And I think that's extremely important. So let's see. Everybody matures at a different rate.
Aditi, you know how obsessed I am with the quarterback position as much as anybody. And I like Jalen Milroe. I'm with you. I would take him, but I would, believe it or not, even though I'm usually whatever it takes to get a quarterback, I would not trade up. I just feel like I like Jalen Milroe because of what you said and what that GM said. He's got the highest upside, which makes sense because if you could find a way to coach out the problems of his accuracy on the short passes, then maybe he could become something special. But there's also a chance he never is anything in the NFL, and I don't love the idea of giving up assets, maybe even a first-round pick next year for a lottery ticket, which he might be.
Yeah, but I don't think it would take that much, A. And B, that's why the draft is about risk.
That's true.
How well do you read what the teams ahead of you are going to do, what the teams behind you are going to do? Is someone going to trade up or not? That's why, I mean, it's a gamble. It's a gamble. So maybe you don't. Maybe you don't trade back into the first round. Maybe you wait and you see what happens in the second round. Maybe you don't do anything and see if he's there in the third round.
Yeah.
Again, this is why Andrew Berry makes way more money than I do. Let him take on that risk.
Fair enough.
We just get to talk about it, right?
All right, let's talk about your guy, Kenny Pickett. You've mentioned him a couple of times here. It's interesting. When the Browns signed Joe Flacco, to me it was a no-brainer that Joe Flacco was going to start. But you just said, hey, if Pickett's starting, and yesterday, or I don't know if it was yesterday we had Mary Kay on. She also thinks that there's a good chance Kenny Pickett.
I'm in that camp as well.
Jason also. So there's three of you that think Kenny Pickett starts. I don't see it.
I think there's a good chance. Okay. I'm not declaring him the starter. I think Aditi's probably declaring him the starter.
Are you declaring him, or you?
No. I think that the likelihood is that he is the starter. I think that even if they go out there splitting reps to start and they start a competition, I believe that Kenny will win that competition. But I do believe that the expectation, I think there's a good chance. Let's just say this. I think there's a good chance that Kenny Pickett is the starter and that Joe Flacco will be an absolute wonderful support to him in a million different ways, and that Joe Flacco will be ready should something happen. But again, let's see it play out. I don't think, but again, I'm saying I think it's a good chance that Kenny is the starter. I don't think Joe was signed to be the starter.
Yeah,
And again, maybe, who knows? Maybe Jalen Milroe comes in there and they do something with his footwork and his arm angle, and all of a sudden he lights things up and he ends up being the starter. I don't think that that's happening. But again, you never know. This is why this is silly season. It's all crazy speculation. I literally said this to a coach this morning. Can these kids just get picked and then can we talk about them?
Never going to happen. That's why football's the monster it is. That we talk about it for 3 months. All right, last thing on Shedeur Sanders. We started draft season, the silly season, 3 months ago. Shedeur Sanders was one of the guys we were talking about going to. Now you're hearing maybe he doesn't even go in the first round. Jason made, I think, a good point saying, hey, we don't even know that the Browns are interested even at 33. Do you think if he, let's say we're to pick 27, 28, we're past Pittsburgh, we're towards the end of the first round, and Cam Ward is the only quarterback off the board. Whether it's the Browns or somebody else, do you think there'll come a point where somebody will trade for Shedeur Sanders? Or do you think he could actually make it to the second round?
I think he could make it to the second round.
Interesting.
But the 21st pick is very interesting to me. Does Mike Tomlin take him?
What do you think?
I think it's possible.
I think yes.
I think
Think so?
I think
I think the Steelers should. I think that you build a team from the line of scrimmage out. I think the Steelers, even though you don't draft for need, I think that defensive tackles will be available. Good game-affecting defensive tackles will be available there. I think that's what the Steelers should do. But what the Steelers should do is not always what they do. And it's a Mike Tomlin decision. And I can very easily see Mike Tomlin selecting Shedeur Sanders.
Go ahead, Mike.
Aditi, I got one before we got to let you go here, but Jordan Schultz, literally just a minute ago, tweeted this out. I'm curious your thoughts on this. Jordan says, 2 Browns players believed to be available via trade entering the draft tonight are cornerback Greg Newsome and defensive end Agbo Okoronkwo. Aditi, do you expect the Browns to make any deals tonight involving a veteran player to potentially pick up some extra ammo in the draft and or move up?
Do I expect? Anything is possible. I mean, that's the, I can't put a percentage on it, but I do think that it is indeed possible.
I think those are more tomorrow moves than tonight.
Yeah, I don't. Those guys aren't getting you first picks.
Those are not impacting first round
no
decisions.
I said the other day Greg Newsome was going to get traded.
Well, he was at the Cavs game last night, and me and Spencer German joked it could be his last night in Cleveland.
Could be.
Might as well spend
Has
it
he
at the Cavs
unfollowed
game.
the Browns? Has he unfollowed the Browns the way George Pickens has unfollowed the Steelers?
He did?
Yeah.
Why did he unfollow the Steelers?
He's
He's such a baby,
Because
guy.
Jordan Schultz reported that the Steelers are taking calls on George Pickens. So somebody go check Greg Newsome's
He is still
Instagram,
following
I
the
guess.
Browns. I
The
can't
fact that-
confirm.
the fact that-
You
confirm.
can figure
We've
that
been-
out that quickly.
This
there
is
you
where
go.
we at with
Yeah,
social
who
media.
cares?
The fact that
Yeah.
we've been reduced to chasing players' social media accounts
Yeah.
just
that's-
nauseates.
Oh
And
my God! Chasing general managers' children's social media accounts. Did you guys see Joe Shane's son is tweeting about?
Yes.
I mean, is
Jackson
posting on
Dart?
Instagram about Jackson Dart, and that turned into
Yeah.
a whole thing.
By the
Where
way,
have we come
for
to?
the record, to wrap it up, for a year, people have been saying the Giants did the wrong thing letting Saquon Barkley walk. And for a year, everybody that said that is wrong.
Okay.
That's it. They're
Wait.
wrong.
That's it. Okay.
Well, because just because Saquon Barkley helped, the Giants would have sucked equally with Saquon Barkley. They would have still been
she
terrible.
wanted more.
That's my point. I'm sorry.
Well, to be fair, you're right, Adam.
Yeah.
Saquon doesn't necessarily have the same season behind the Giants' offensive
That's
line,
right.
with the Giants' wide receivers, with the Giants' quarterback play.
Yes.
So is he a truly dynamic, wonderful player? Of course he is.
Yes.
But he's not having the same year, and you can look at players everywhere like that. I mean,
right.
if we're going to stick with running backs, let's talk about Le'Veon Bell. He was never the same running back once he left the Steelers' offensive line, Big Ben and Antonio Brown.
Fair enough.
So the Giants take Ashton Genty tonight at 3.
That would be funny if that happened.
Yeah.
That would
Not
be
seeing
really
that
funny.
happen. All right.
All right, Dee, where are we
Bye,
watching?
guys.
Where are we watching you during the draft? Like, what's going on? What are you doing exactly?
I'll be on CBS Sports HQ all day
Okay.
long, and then we'll have a ton of interviews on all of our platforms: TV, streaming, digital, social,
All right, we'll check
wherever
out.
you can watch CBS.
All right,
All
great
right.
stuff. Enjoy.
Bye, guys.
We'll see
Thanks
you later.
for having me.